Hey, what's going on everyone? In today's video, we'll be taking a look at 10 of the most effective muscle shocking principles that you can incorporate into your training routines to help blast through any plateaus. You'll find all of these and more in my free fat burning and muscle building guide, which you can find in the link in the description below. Okay, with that being said, let's dive into our first shocking principle. So we're starting with what is perhaps the most effective muscle shocking principle, which is the overload principle. Now, what this basically states is that we reach our maximum muscle failure within a set rep range. Let's call that 10. After a short rest period, we add a small increment in weight, usually no more than about 10%. And then we go back and try to get those 8 to 10 reps. It's unlikely we're gonna get more reps, but we wanna be within that window of 2 or 3 reps close to that 10 rep max. Now, what this really does is we're adding small increments of weight onto the bar or onto the exercise in which we're failing so that we take our muscles to that point of failure. And then after a short rest, allowing our mitochondria, our muscles, to kind of replenish some of that energy, we're increasing the amount of weight, again, only by about 10% so that we can continue to push the muscles even harder. So in summary, the overload principle is ideal for some of the big exercises that you'd be performing early on in the workout when you're at your freshest, you're at your strongest, and you can lift the most amount of weight. And also, I'd only really do this 2 times within an exercise. The key to this overload principle is that over the course of several weeks and months, we're making small incremental additions to the weight that we're lifting. So even if it's only 5%, after 3 months of adding 5% at least once within that exercise, we're suddenly lifting a lot more weight, which means our muscles have got stronger, more efficient, and able to manage that weight with greater ease. This is really the principle of overload so that we can get stronger and bigger over the course of these months with these small increments. The drop set principle. Basically what this states is you reach muscle failure within your given rep range again, let's call that 10, and then right at the end of the workout, we want to continue lifting by reducing the amount of weight or resistance that our muscles are having to work with. And the number for this appears to be around 30%. So you'll want to be taking off about 30% of the total weight that you're lifting in order to complete that drop set. What I mean by that is calculate how much weight you've got on the bar for that final working set and know what that 30% is. We're not taking off huge amounts of weight. We're also not taking off a small amount of weight. There needs to be enough weight removed that will allow you to still get a further 8, 9, 10 reps. Again, you don't want to be lifting that weight and only getting 3 or 4 reps, but you also don't want to take off too much weight that you can get twice as many reps as you were when you failed. This is called the rest pause shock principle, and it's a great technique when you're training alone and you want to lift heavy, but you don't have a spotter available. So what we're basically doing is lifting the heaviest weight that we can manage on our own, stopping 1 or 2 reps short of complete failure, re-racking the weight, resting for no longer than about 20 seconds, and then going back under to achieve a further 2 or 3 more reps with that same weight. Again, it's a great way to sort of overload the muscle without the need for going too heavy where you're gonna fail on your own. So find the heaviest weight, stop short just before you hit failure, allow your muscles to get 20 seconds of recovery, and then get back under, and you'll find that you can at least get 1 to 2 more solid reps than you'd be able to do if you continued that straight set. Again, a technique that I would only really use for the bigger exercises early on in the workout, and what you'll find is as we go down this list of shocking principles, certain ones apply to the big compound free weight time movements, other ones you'll find more beneficial to either machine or cable or even bodyweight exercises. So let's keep moving down the list and keep checking them out. This is the superset principle, and what this basically states is you finish one exercise and then immediately start another exercise. Now, these 2 exercises can be training the same muscle group, such as a bench press into a chest fly, but then you're kind of at the point of diminishing returns because you're overtraining the chest with the second exercise because you've already kind of depleted the energy in that muscle during the first one. So what I like to do with the superset principle is train 2 opposing muscle groups. For example, bench press straight into a lat pull down or a barbell row. Same can be said for biceps and triceps, quads and hamstrings, 2 opposing muscle groups that work synergistically within that exercise. Now, the great benefit of this isn't necessarily for strength, but it's more about intensity, keeping the intensity high on that muscle whilst then working the opposing muscle, whilst allowing that one to still kind of work indirectly. So if you're short on time, supersets are great. If you're looking to cut up, burn fat, supersets are great. If you're looking to really grow and build muscle and get bigger and stronger, supersets may not be the one that you want to focus on most, but somewhere throughout the workout, I'll include them, especially if I'm transitioning from one muscle group to the next. So just be aware of when and how you might use supersets within your training routine. Here we have circuits, and as you can see, I'm performing one exercise immediately followed by another one, and then again. And I'll typically only do about 3 exercises within that circuit, non-stop, no rest. Then I've got about 30 seconds, maybe 60 at most, before I repeat that circuit again, usually 2 or 3 times. Now, this approach works really well for smaller muscle groups, especially abs, because they reoxygenize quickly, meaning they can withstand a higher level of endurance. They don't need as much recovery. Same also applies for things like forearms and calves, where I pick out 3 exercises, perform 1, 2, 3, rest, and then repeat them. Now, why is this beneficial? Well, because we're able to work more than one muscle group in a short amount of time, we're limiting the body from its recovery, so we're keeping the intensity high. This isn't something I would do with big, large muscle groups like chest when I'm trying to lift my heaviest weight early on in the workout, but towards the end of the workout, I'll focus on circuits, often because I want to get more exercises in within a shorter amount of time. And again, these smaller muscle groups require less recovery than the larger ones. So pick and choose where you might use circuits. You can also do opposing muscle groups, or even a full body circuit, doing 5, 6, 7 exercises in one particular workout and then repeating it. But for my particular goal of muscle growth, conditioning, and just getting that athletic, well-functional, kind of all-round physique, circuits work really well, especially for abs, calves, and forearms. Using a spotter or getting an assisted spot is probably the most effective way to increase your strength overall, simply because you can really push yourself to absolute failure knowing that someone's there behind you who's got your back. They're going to help assist with the lift, allowing you to get 1 or 2 kind of further additional reps than you would be able to on your own. Plus, there's the whole safety aspect that if you do hit absolute failure and you're no longer able to complete that rep to rack the bar off, they've got the bar for you. Perhaps the most important aspect of finding the right spotter is knowing how much they really need to assist to allow you to get the most out of that final few reps. Now for this, I always look at it kind of like a Goldilocks scenario. You don't want too much assistance where they take the bar from you, because that relieves all of the tension from the muscle. But you also don't want them just to put their fingers on the bar and not really give too much assistance at all, because then you're really starting to fail on that rep. So what I find works best is have them keep their fingers on the bar for at least 2 or 3 reps before you need them, so that they can match your tempo and get a feel for how much you're actually putting into that lift. Then when you start to fail, they can literally feel that effort drop and they can continue for 1 or 2 reps more. Again, not something I would do on every exercise, every set, more so in the early stages of my workout, and again for the bigger exercises. This shocking principle is all about focusing on the negatives, or rather the eccentric or lengthening of the muscle. A great example is with this exercise, a bicep curl. We're shortening the muscle as we curl that weight up, but as we start to fail with that weight and the number of reps that we're achieving, we're still strong enough to control the weight back down. So even if you need to do a few cheat reps to get the weight up, we're then still supporting that weight down at a slower tempo, increasing the intensity within that muscle for the negative portion. The main time that I'd focus on incorporating negatives into my routine is really at the end of each muscle group that I'm training. For example, if I've trained back and then moving on to arms, I'll include some negatives on the final exercise for back, and then also the final exercises for arms. This isn't something that you're going to include on every exercise, every set, simply because you're really using a lot of that muscle energy and you're not going to be able to then increase the weight, therefore you're sort of diminishing returns as you continue through the workout. So give this a try on the last exercise for that particular muscle group and keep your tempo around 3 to 4 seconds. Get that weight up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have a spotter or an assistance or even a bit of a cheat rep to get that weight back up to allow you to control perhaps 2 or 3 negative sets. You don't need to perform negatives throughout the full set. This is only something that you would add once you've reached muscle failure to continue to push that muscle even further to the end of that set. When people talk about partial reps, they can also be talking about 21s. And by that, they mean performing the same exercise broken into 21 reps or 7, 7, and 7. Now, a great example of this is again with the bicep curl, 7 full reps, 7 partial reps at the bottom, and 7 partial reps at the top. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that this is a great method for increasing your strength. The way I look at partial reps is, just like the name suggests, a partial rep. So once I'm unable to complete a full repetition with that same weight because I've reached the point of muscle failure, I'm still able to move that weight for a partial rep. So especially in the lower half of that rep, it's still effective. My muscles are still firing. I just don't have enough strength to get the bar all the way up. So give this a try next time you fail. Reach your 10 or 12 reps with the heaviest weight that you can lift. And then before you rack or put the weight back down, try to get 3, 4, 5 reps using only a partial amount of that rep. Chest can be done again. Instead of a full range of motion, you're only able to get the lower portion of that rep, but still 3, 4, even 5 more reps before you then have to rack the weight. So all of these methods are really there to allow you to keep pushing the muscle beyond what you might normally do simply by doing a straight set with the heaviest weight for the maximum amount of reps. It's about getting a little bit more out of the muscle than you might be able to achieve just with a set weight. Tempo training. Now what I'm talking about here is the speed at which you perform the exercise in its entirety. Not partials, not negatives, but either fast, explosive, or slow and controlled. You can do a combination of both. I often find that changing the tempo on bodyweight exercises gives the best results. Push-ups, pull-ups, dips, where you're not having to lift an extra amount of weight. Therefore, you can more easily control the speed at which you perform the exercise. Now, if you're performing it faster, you've got that explosiveness in there. You're gonna use a lot of energy quickly, so you're gonna tire out. Slow, negative, more controlled, prolonged, longer duration. Give both a try. Again, at the end of my workout, for example, if I'm doing chest, I might throw some push-ups or some dips in there as well to work the outer pecs. I'll control the tempo, usually more on the slower side, just to really push my muscles to absolute failure without any weight. Again, I got another great video on this where we look at the key principles of growing muscle, which is the overload principle. So whilst this may not necessarily be a shocking principle, I find it a great addition to include in your workouts to be able to help break past those plateaus. I'm talking about resistance bands. They're great on machines and can also be used on free weight type exercises, particularly with machines because they have a fixed range of motion. And including resistance bands changes the dynamic on how we press and lower that weight. We've always got a force putting us back down, and that changes exponentially the further we push that weight away. Now, while I wouldn't necessarily use resistance bands on the heaviest of exercises, I use that early on in the workout and typically with free weights, but especially when using machines because they have a fixed range of motion, including resistance bands changes how the muscle works within that exercise, mainly because the further we push that weight away, the extra amount of resistance we're getting pulling us back down to the start of the exercise. So try incorporating some resistance bands within a few of the exercises. Again, different muscle groups, chest, shoulders and arms, they work really well on. Legs, especially if you're using a leg extension or even a leg press type machine, they can be really valuable. But try including resistance bands on the final few working sets where you still got a good amount of weight on, and change the tempo, or try and get a few extra reps than you might normally do by dropping the weight, but by keeping the bands there to change the dynamic of the exercise. All right guys, there we have it. That wraps up the end of today's video, looking at 10 of the most effective muscle shocking principles. You can find all of these and more in my free guide to building muscle. Get this in the link below. It's got a full breakdown of workouts, nutritional support, supplements, and cardio. And until next time, keep training hard. I'll see you back here on my next workout video.